The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're a little bit late today. I just want to give a shout out to the fabulous Samantha because she just overcame big technical difficulties on the internet so that we could be here with you this morning live on YouTube and on Facebook Live. So yay to Samantha for working it out, but we're a little bit late because, you know, sometimes that's how it rolls. But glad that you're with us because, boy, we're worth the wait. We're going to have a spectacular show for you here live this morning. We are coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning. And as I said, we've got an amazing show coming up for you in just a minute. We like to cover autism from a 360-degree perspective. There's nothing that's not up for discussion, right? We try to keep a mind to a couple of different things. We hope to uplift you, to inspire you to be able to do more things, to hook you up with resources that are in your area, and let you know that you are not alone. That's one of the things that I always say here is, you know, let's hold hands. Si se puede, we can do this together. Okay. And by the way, we want everything to be interactive. We want you to participate with us. We love hearing from you, even when we're having technical difficulties. So Samantha is going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate with us here on the show. While she does that, I will remind you that our homepage is still autism-live.com. It's just one of the many ways that you can be watching the show. When you go to that site, all you have to do is click on the triangle that is on the computer screen. It will start the show playing. You will be watching either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. If you want to go back in time and you want something within the 100 most recent episodes, there is a little memo tab up in the upper left-hand corner. Click on that and you'll have access to those 100 shows. If you want to go back further in time or search by topics, you can do that on some of the other ways that the show is available, for instance, on our YouTube channel or on iTunes. Especially on our YouTube channel, we do highlights that once we do a live show, we take out snippets of all the different interviews, and those are available to you on the YouTube channel. You'll see that we have playlists to kind of categorize them because we have so many hours of videos now that it's easy to get lost. But so if you really like the Ask Dr. Doreen, there's an Ask Dr. Doreen playlist. If you really like the recipes, there's a whole playlist that's just the What's Left series. We've got a new series with Christina Adams. We've got an older series that is with Nancy Alspaugh Jackson. Both of those are about empowering parents and giving them good information parent to parent. There are all kinds of things. Check out on our YouTube page, go to the playlist tab and check out all the playlists that are there. And subscribe while you're there. Please subscribe. And now we are available on Facebook Live, which is a fabulous thing. And you can ask questions on all of those places. But back to our homepage, there is a feature there that we call the live feature that allows you to be completely anonymous. If there's something that you want to ask and you don't want everybody to see that you're the one asking it, boy, that's the site for you to go to. You just put your cursor in the box that says your question. You type, you hit enter, and it shows up here on my screen. There is a lag. Sometimes it's 2 minutes, and so yesterday it was a substantial lag, so I wasn't getting the messages until Dr. Granpeche was out of the room. But so send your question in early is the thing that I want to say to you. Early and often, just like voting. And then I won't know who you are. I don't know where in the world you are, so make sure that you reference so that we can tell you where the resources are that are close. We love it when you interact with us. I do like to start the show by saying that we have lots of experts on the show. I'm not one of them. Let's be 100% clear that I am not an expert in autism or any facet of autism, right? I'm an autism mom, and I'm proud to say that. And I don't say I'm just that, because that's a pretty incredible thing to do. And I've been an autism mom for over 11 years now. So I not only have an affinity for that, it's part of my purpose for getting up in the morning is that I want to help both my kid and myself. I'm just keeping it real here, but I want to be able to help other people as well, wherever they are in this journey, to get connected with the resources, because I have so much to pay forward. So that's why I say, hold my hand, friends, we'll get there. Si se puede. But not an expert, okay? I have opinions. Just because I'm not an expert doesn't mean that I don't have opinions about anything. I'm totally willing to share my opinions, and sometimes that gets me into a lot of hot water. But we trudge on, right? Okay, so we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it. Now, why do we do this? Because most of us did not choose to become part of the autism community. It was something that showed up on our doorstep and said, hi, guess what you're going to be doing? Different than what you thought you were going to be doing, right? And along with me, I'm going to bring a whole host of words that you never thought that you would ever need to know and have never heard of before. And by the way, you need to learn these really quick if you really want to get something accomplished. It can be so overwhelming and frustrating. So we like to shed just a little bit of light on some of these terms. We give you first the actual definition, which I love to make fun of, just being honest, because the definitions are often crazy. They're worse than the actual jargon term. Then we give you a working definition, which I always say makes the BCBAs break out into hives, but we enjoy that too. And it gives us a place to start from, to learn, to grow, to make these terms our own. Because when we do start to understand these terms, we save time and money and we make more progress. That's why we do the jargon of the day. So this week, we're continuing on with our jargon terms that are about differential reinforcement, because one of our favorite viewers asked us to make sure that we do differential reinforcement, which has always made me particularly itchy, because honestly, I didn't get the finer points, and this has made me have to get the finer points. So you ready? First we did DRA, then we did DRO, and now we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, DRI. What? Okay, DRI, which is differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior. And let's take a look at what our actual definition is. It's a procedure for decreasing problem behavior in which reinforcement is delivered that is topographically, I think that's how you say it, topographically incompatible with the behavior targeted for reduction and withheld following instances of the problem behavior. And that is from Cooper Heron, and I couldn't even pronounce it, let alone understand what it means. Okay, DRI, let's move on to our working definition. DRI, we're only going to reinforce behaviors that by their very nature can't happen at the same time as the challenging behavior. Okay, so let's see if we can't talk about DRI within the context of why isn't it DRA and why isn't it DRO. So what we learned is that DRA, we're going to take a very specific, we're going to figure out what behavior that we want to see happen in, so the child is engaging in some sort of behavior, right, that's challenging. Maybe they're kicking people, I don't know. Maybe they're spitting on their hands and smearing it on the desk, right? That's a big one that a lot of people have to deal with in classrooms. Okay, so if we do DRA, we're going to say, well, what's the behavior that we want the child to do? And when we give reinforcement, it's going to be for doing that specific behavior that we want them to do instead of the behavior that they were doing. That's DRA. Okay, DRO, we're not going to find a specific behavior that we're targeting, because maybe there are a bunch of behaviors that we want to do, right? Instead of the challenging behavior, and we're going to literally reinforce absolutely anything else that's not spitting on the hands and putting it on the desk. Anything else we're going to reinforce. Great. So it's not this targeted, we're just reinforcing this one behavior. We're going to reinforce anything that is not the spitting on the hands, doing the whatever. When we do DRI, what we're going to do is find a specific behavior, but it's not DRA because we're adding a little asterisk to it. It's a behavior that the child can't do while they're doing the behavior. So if the child's spitting on the hands and drawing on the table, and we decide to teach them to crochet, which is not something we would do, right? But you see, I'm making a leap here, right? So that it'll be clear. If we decide to teach them to crochet, you can't crochet and spit on your hands and draw on the table at the same time. You'd have to stop crocheting to spit on your hands and put it on the table. That's DRI. We're going to give an incompatible behavior and we are going to reinforce the incompatible behavior. So every time the child is crocheting, we are going to reinforce because it's incompatible with spitting on the hands and doing whatever. So I think for those of us who aren't designing ABA programs, it's just important to know what the difference between the three is. I don't think it's as important for us right now to know, well, why would you use one as opposed to the other? Because sometimes it seems to me, but we'll get a BCBA in here to talk about it. It seems to me that, you can try one of them, and if that's not working, then you go to another one. Sometimes, it's as simple as that, but I think there are specific times when it's like, oh, well, this is why, and it has to do with the environment. But if you think about it, DRI is something that you're absolutely going to employ at some point because, and we're going to talk a little bit about distraction in just a minute, but if we have, people do this all the time. I'm going to date myself really badly here. When I was a little kid, there was a show on television that was called Kojak, and it was Telly Savalas. He was a bald detective. I never got to stay up late enough to watch it, but the big thing with him was that he was trying to quit smoking. And so he walked around everywhere with a Tootsie Pop in his mouth. He was this tough, bald, guy. But the big funny was that he always went everywhere with a Tootsie Pop. So there was a lollipop sticking out of his mouth because he couldn't smoke and suck the lollipop at the same time. DRI. And if you think about it, what are the other things that I have a friend who manages to maintain her weight and be skinny and svelte because anytime that she wants to snack, she gets up and brushes her teeth. It's because she can't brush her teeth and snack and she doesn't like the feeling after. You know what I mean? So it's kind of clever. DRI is a pretty amazing thing when we know how to use it, and it can be particularly fabulous in a classroom. If we see that there is a behavior that a child is doing, like for instance, the spitting on the hands and doing stuff on the tables, we maybe give them a fidget toy because if the fidget toy gets sticky, it's not reinforcing to them, right? So it can be something that's really, really useful in a lot of different circumstances. DRI, we're reinforcing only a targeted behavior that is incompatible with whatever so you can't do it at the same time. So that's our DRI, and we want to thank DJ for making us go through DRA, DRO, DRI. Hopefully it's clearer to you now and I haven't completely confused you. But they're all types of differential reinforcement. There are actually more, but we're not going to do it right now. All right, that's if you want to be a registered behavior technician. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you. And so this is a little bit different than what kinds of questions we normally ask, but I want to know, what is your dream vacation? Like where would, and it's as different as we are different. For some people, their dream vacation is going to Disneyland or Disney World. For other people, that's their very idea of being in the seventh ring of where. Some people want to go to New York City and go to see Broadway plays, and other people want to go to Hawaii. But what is it for you? What is your dream vacation? Is it sitting on a beach? And I really want you to think about, picture yourself doing this thing and going, okay, wait a second, is that really? Because, all of the media shows us, the dream vacation is to go sit on a beach and be sitting there with a beverage next to you and a good book, and you sit there and you watch the waves. I don't think that's my dream vacation. I have to be honest with you. I'm not very good in the sun. I'm not very good at the swimming thing. I'm nervous when my son is around bodies of water. You know what I mean? It's not my thing. So then I can ask myself, what really is my dream vacation? I'm not sure that I know, and I really want to explore this, but ask yourselves I would love to hear from you guys. Write in on Facebook and tell us what your dream vacation is. And I'll tell you, I want to know this for a couple of different reasons. I want to know this because at some point we've been talking for a long time about having a contest, and I'm about to go to some people and say, hey, I want to have a contest. And I'd like some ideas of what would be an amazing getaway prize for somebody. But also because we always have a topic of the day, and it's going to have to do with this. So maybe we should just move on to our topic of the week. Our topic this week is distraction, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we just did a little distraction, right? We were talking about DRI and talking about interventions and talking about, when kids are spitting on their hands and wiping it on the desk, and how, that's not a fun thing when that's going on, whether you're the teacher or the parent, right? And so we just did a little distraction. We just changed the subject, and I said, where would you like to go on a dream vacation? You didn't get to go on a dream vacation. Nobody gave you a dream vacation, but for a second, we took a beat and we're like, would I like to be on a beach? Would I like to be on a mountain? It's kind of like a Dr. Seuss book. And that's called distraction. And I want to talk a little bit today about the fact that distraction is an amazing tool. And it's something that can be good, it can be bad, and it can be really ugly. And especially for those of us who are somewhere in the autism community, whether it's that you're the person who's on the spectrum or you're the person who cares about somebody who's on the spectrum and wanting to get progress for them, we all have issues with distraction. Can we be honest about that? For those of us who love somebody who's on the autism spectrum, I can't tell you how often I have heard it come out of people's mouth of one way or the other, either saying, I would love to take a vacation from autism, or, saying, why is it that there can be no vacation from autism, right? So, because that's a bitter pill to swallow, to say there is no vacation from autism. And that is the reality for a lot of you who are watching right now. So we need a distraction from time to time. And sometimes we're made to feel guilty about needing a distraction or needing a vacation. And I think that everyone is entitled to moments of distraction. Everyone. It's a glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing. But I thought of this because in watching one of the recent episodes that we aired, the A Word, there's the moment when the dad, Mike, says, my son is at a certain age, and I know now that he has autism, and he needs things from me, and I'm aware of that. And everybody's telling me that every moment of every day is a teaching opportunity. And the other day I felt guilty because I sat down and I put a football game on, and he was in the room with me, but I wasn't interacting with him, and I felt guilty about it. And he was talking about how different it is being an autism dad, because he has friends who they can be in a room with their kids and have the football game on, and they don't feel guilty about it. And I'd like to say that distraction is important, and we need to allow a certain amount of it, and that maybe that's a gift. And I think that Mike eventually came to that's a gift, because I think a lot of people choose distraction over their kids and don't have that moment of guilt, which that guilt is just an awareness of you're making a choice right now. And I think if we come to that awareness and say, yes, I am making a choice, but I need to take breaks from time to time. So I'm choosing that because it's the right thing for me and it's the right thing for my child. It's a great thing. Okay, so I understand that people are, I gotta open up my iPad because I don't have the other one up and going. So you guys have been telling us where you want to go for your dream vacation. So I'm gonna get that up here. But also I want to say that distraction can be a really bad thing too. That for our glass half full, glass half empty, sometimes our kids can perseverate on something that is not productive. And we can do that too. We can get stuck on the habit trail of saying something over and over to ourselves inside our heads, or we can find something that's a release and then do that over and over. It could be food, it could be spending money, right? And then because it's a distraction, then it turns into something that, potentially can be addictive. And our kids can do that too. We've been talking a lot on the show about how a perseveration can, if we turn it into something productive, can be fabulous. It can be a calling. It can be a vocation. It can be how you make your money the rest of your life. Or it can turn into something that prevents you from being able to do anything else. So it's a tight wire act, right? But I do want to see, I love that. Jessica says she wants to stay on a farm and cook for her family. That's a cool thing. Somebody else says to be around my family and best friends. That's a great vacation. Oh, here's one, to go to Ireland and trace my ancestors. You know, I used to think that I was Irish with the name Shannon, and that was the last name of one of my ancestors. And so, you know, I thought, oh, I'm Irish. We did a little bit of the ancestry thing. Turns out Scottish. Who knew? So our new fantasy with my husband and I is that we want to go to, because we found out that he's Scottish too, we want to go to Scotland and check out the castles. And go to, there is some Northern Ireland in me, and I want to check out the castles there. See, and there was a distraction, right? But sometimes we need that. It is the pressure valve that takes the edge off the top, and it doesn't cost anything to daydream for a minute. And when we lose sight of what our dreams are and what our hopes are, it's rough. So monitor it. We're going to talk a little bit later on about mindfulness. Monitor how much time you spend on distraction. But if you're spending no time, spend some time. Allow yourself to daydream. It's really good for your soul, and it's good for your blood pressure. If all you're doing is distraction and you're not getting anything done, you got to come to grips with that and face it. And, you know, I think I'm guilty of that a lot of the time. Go, whoops, where did that time go? Got to get back on track. And same thing for our kids. I think it's important when we see that there's something that they're passionate in to allow them some time. They've got to have some downtime to explore that. Temple Grandin's mother let her spin a plate for an hour a day, but there was a limit. And I think that that's the best thing for all of us. Okay, so that's our topic for today, and we're going to be talking about that. We've got a great show for you. We're going to talk about mindfulness. We've got our autism in the classroom tip. We've got special education attorney Bonnie Yates is going to be here, and we're going to start to unpack the IEP, and how we can have the best possible IEP experience. I love that. And as I said, she's a special education attorney. She's been on both sides of the IEP table, so nobody better than Bonnie to tell us what our rights are. Then a little bit later in the show, for the first time on the show, we're having Julie Dipp on. And she's an amazing woman who is the head of OC Autism for Orange County Autism. She's also a speech and language pathologist and works extensively in the field of autism, especially in Orange County. For some reason, we have a lot of news about Orange County, things that are coming up. We've got an open house that we want to mention, and a survey that we want to mention as well later on in the show. And then we're going to end out the show with my good friend Matt Asner, who we haven't had on the show in a while. He's with Autism Society of America. He's got an exciting announcement about something that's coming up in Orange County. It's like the Orange County show today. Not entirely, but you know. And it's really exciting. And I'm just going to say that it has something to do with Ben Affleck. So if you like Ben Affleck, you're going to want to... and if you like the movie Inside Out. So now that's all the hints that I can give you. So that's coming up at the last half hour of the show. And you know, when Matt's here, anything can happen. And we love it when he drops by. So that's what's happening. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk about our mindfulness moment, how to encourage mindfulness with small kiddos. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to make some gluten-free Play-Doh. It's a great activity because A, I know a lot of our kids have an allergy to gluten, and B, it's super cheap and cost-effective to make your own. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are 1 cup of white rice flour, half a cup of cornstarch, half a cup of salt, 1 tablespoon of cream of tartar, 1.5 teaspoons of vegetable oil, 1 cup of water, food coloring, a saucepan, and a spatula. So as you guys can see, I'm in my kitchen because I'm going to be using the stovetop to make the Play-Doh. First what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pot and fill it up with all the dry ingredients, okay? Now dry ingredients in the saucepan, I'm now gonna add the wet ones, the vegetable oil and water. I'm gonna turn the pan onto low heat and continue stirring. What I want to make sure happens is that it gets solidified and gooky looking, you'll see in a second, but not overcooked, okay? You're just trying to get the materials to kind of congeal. You know the dough is ready. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna just take it off the stovetop and let it cool. Once it's cool, then you're gonna add your coloring, and boom, you've got gluten-free Play-Doh. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Play-Doh with your kids. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. I wanted to take just a quick moment here before we go to Bonnie Yates to do a mindfulness moment, and I hope I can squeeze in a couple of comments that you guys have written in this morning. Thanks for writing in. We love it when you're interactive. So we talk just for a couple of minutes every Thursday about mindfulness and how useful it can be for us to manage stress. But it's also something that's really, really great for our kiddos. And many of you have written in and said, yeah, okay, Shannon, but how do we do this with really young kiddos or kiddos who are on the autism spectrum and don't have the ability to sit still for a couple of minutes, right? And a lot of you write in and ask about how do we help build focus with our kids. And we give you lots of tips for that, but I want to put it within the mindset of being mindful. We can start really young with kids, but there are a couple of guidelines that we want to think about. And first of all, we want to make sure that we don't expect to scale Mount Everest in one day. If we're working with kiddos who are on the spectrum, no matter what age they are, our expectation can't be that we're going to sit down with them for 3 minutes and they're going to be able to do mindfulness and that they're going to find it reinforcing, right? That it's going to take a little bit of time. And so some of the things that we want to be particularly mindful when we're doing this is that we don't ever want to have mindfulness be a punishment. So if, for instance, if you are somebody who uses timeouts, and I really want you to encourage people very often, if you do timeouts, it's very hard to do it properly. To have it work. People say, oh, timeouts work so great. Well, only if you do it really well, and it's really hard to do it really well unless you're trained to it. So be careful with timeouts. But if you're doing timeouts, make sure that you're not, and if you're using it as a punishment strategy or a de-escalation, that is not the time to be teaching mindfulness. We want to teach mindfulness when everything's okay, because we don't want to pair it with, you're stressed, and we don't want to confuse it and have it be something that's a punishment. All right, you just did this, so you go sit in the corner and be mindful now. Not what we want to do. That we're never going to get to the point where they're going to do it on their own. And what we want to do is to build strategies for the person so that when they are upset, they can fall back on it themselves and go, this is what I do to calm myself down. So we have to make it really reinforcing first. Make sense? Okay, so one of the best things that I've heard of is something called breathing buddies. And we can do this with any of our kids. We want to take some sort of an object, could be a stuffed animal, something that is comforting and that the individual truly loves. And a lot for our little kids, that may very well be a stuffed animal, but something, that's about this size and not too heavy. Okay, so think about what that might be for this particular individual. And what we're going to do is we're just going to play a game with them. And you're not going to say, now this is all about mine. We're just going to play a game where we're going to put the item, the buddy is what we're going to call it, on their stomach. And then we're going to ask them to look at the buddy, and we're going to ask them to take a deep breath. And the buddy should move. The buddy should go up, right? And we'll say, see how the buddy moved? Now we're going to blow that air out and see if the buddy goes down. And the buddy will go down, right? And we're going to say, now we're going to try to do it as slow as we can. And we're going to watch the buddy while we do it. Does the buddy go up? Breathe in, and the buddy goes up. And then we breathe out, and the buddy goes down. And so in the beginning, you're going to do this for such a short period of time that they're not going to have the opportunity to get bored. And we're going to make this a ritual. Now, think about when a ritual, like, it's great if you have time to do this at bedtime, but sometimes you don't. It's great if you have time to do this in the morning. It could be the first thing you do when you come home from school, but let's set it at a time when you actually can do this on a regular, and let's make it a ritual, that there's a specific time every day that we just do this. I know that there are people doing this in the classroom, and they're doing it with their young kids, and it's like when we come back from recess, everybody lays down on their mat, they get their breathing buddy, and they do it, and they get more work done in the afternoon as a result, because it gives them that sort of transition, but it's got to be reinforcing, so it's got to be an item that they really like. We got to teach them that, you're making it go up, you're making it go down. So in the beginning, maybe you do it 3 times. So we're going to breathe up, in, and the buddy goes up, we breathe out, and the buddy goes down. And after a while, you stop prompting the in and out, and you just tell them, watch your buddy. And eventually you can fade that prompt, so they get to the point where they're doing it 3 times on their own. Then you build from 3 times to 4 times to 5 times, so that eventually we can have this child do the breathing buddy for 2 minutes. If you can get a child to focus on their breathing for 2 minutes, and they're watching the object go up and down, that's mindfulness, my friends. And that's focus, and that's de-escalating, and that is stress relieving. And if it's really truly a reinforcing object, they will start to do it on their own. Now, if that's really hard, or you can't find the object, there are tons of videos now in apps. Search up on your phone or your computer, put in mindfulness breathing app or whatever. They have some where it shows a picture in the background of something. There's one that's all over Facebook right now that it's rain falling down off of leaves, and it has a little circle that, so that you do it for 5 minutes or whatever. There's others where the circle goes in, and that's the breathing in, and then it goes out, that's the breathing out. So you could do that with a child too. If they're really technology driven and a stuffed animal isn't going to do it, then give them that and get them to breathe with the thing. But such a powerful thing. We're hearing from so many schools that when they're using this, it's a powerful thing. Well, you don't have to wait and have them do it at school, but make it a ritual, make it at a specific time every day, start slow, don't expect it to happen overnight, and build up slowly. Reinforce them afterwards and praise them, tell them what a great job that they did. You don't have to call it mindfulness, you can call it your special moment, you can do whatever, but it's worth it to do with our little kiddos. Okay, that's our mindfulness moment. Really quickly, I want to say Newton has written in and said, is there funding specifically for autistic people for post-secondary and autism resources, weighted blankets especially, etc.? I live in Alberta in Canada. I don't know exactly what your resources are in Alberta in Canada for grants for things like that. If it is medically necessary, a lot of times insurance will cover it. I have heard of people getting a weighted blanket or a weighted vest covered by insurance, so check into your insurance. But the other thing that I want to say to you, Newton, is that there's a great book about weighted blankets that our dear friend Kara Kaczynski co-wrote. And I think I did the blurb on the back of the book. I loved the book. And it goes through everything that there is to know about weighted blankets, why they work, what they do, and how to make them. There's a whole chapter on how to make them. I haven't done it yet, but I have promised that I want to make one for myself, and I want to make one for Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson's son, Wyatt. Some people respond, I do. I'm wearing this vest today because it's heavy. And I've discovered that with my fibromyalgia, weighted things are great for me. And they help me with stress. So the other thing is, if you can't get funding, a grant for it, there's a possibility that you could make it on your own. And there are places that carry very inexpensive fabric. And I'll bet there are places that would help you to sew it as well. So let me know if you have questions about that, but there's a great book that's available about that. And I love that somebody wrote in and said that they are also an autism mom and they're seeking to pursue their BCBA. And I think that that's wonderful. At one point I thought about that, I just got to be honest, and I decided to go a different way. Oh, and you're going to do a BCA BA, that's fabulous. I decided to go a different way and host this show instead. But man, I applaud you. You're going to help so many people, which is a really wonderful thing. And we want to thank Marilyn for saying that she gets great info here. So really spectacular. Keep writing in, you guys, and tell us where you take your dream vacation. We're going to take a short break because it's time to get Bonnie Yates on the line so we can take on IEPs and get the best IEP ever. Stick with us.
Nobody ever asks a kid with autism, what is it you'd really like to do? At this school, we ask the kids, what is your goal? What is your dream? Exceptional Minds is a vocational training program for young adults on the autism spectrum who want to have careers in computer animation and visual effects. I think young people with autism are totally underestimated.
When you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. They all have different talents, different skills, and what surprised me is that there really are no limits, that if these guys believe that they can do something, they really can.
It's estimated that 90 to 95% of young adults with autism are unemployed or underemployed.
A lot of young adults still live at home. A lot of them suffer from depression and are very isolated from the rest of the world, and the opportunities for them are very limited.
We want to develop careers for our young adults. Our full-time program runs 3 years, at the end of which we have job placement and job coaching. We have a work readiness program. We also have our own in-house studio so that when our students graduate, they can do on-the-job training and work on real projects.
We outsourced about 30-40 shots to the team here. They did fantastic work that we can put into a movie and be proud of it. It's great. I mean, we want to do it again.
The studio is their first step into the professional world, the first step in their new careers as digital artists.
The whole purpose is to get the students out into the real world.
We all have the same dreams. We want significance, dignity, and purpose with our lives. We have an opportunity to give those 3 words to every single student at this school who will actually be able to go out and participate in the dream.
This is my first full-time, full-paying job. I primarily work in After Effects. I learned After Effects at Exceptional Minds. It seemed like a good place for me to fit in because I was interested in animation.
Right from the first day that Nicky set foot in our company, he was producing work for us. We saw what level of professionalism is being instilled in them from the very beginning.
This was the first opportunity where Nicky could combine something he loved to do with something he was really, really good at that could eventually lead to employment.
When we first met Kevin, he was working at a supermarket bagging groceries, and they said he would never amount to anything else.
I work at Stargate Studios, and I'm a junior compositor. I mainly do like rotoscoping right now, and I'm still learning.
I think that you find great talent in the most amazing places. The students at Exceptional Minds have had a fair amount of training to get them ready for the visual effects environment.
If it wasn't for Exceptional Minds, I might still be at the supermarket, and I might be living at my parents' house.
Everything's changed. Nicky has purpose.
It feels like I'm a member of society now.
He's capable of making it on his own.
Once you get inside and you see what's really happening there, you immediately want to be a part of it.
It's the dream factory, you know, the movie business, and if you can connect people with their dreams, then the magic happens.
At Exceptional Minds, we like to say that we are changing lives one frame at a time.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm so thrilled. I love this time of the week because we welcome Bonnie Yates, special education attorney, to the program. And Bonnie, welcome back, and tell us, what is the name of the law firm that you're associated with?
The law firm is called Hirji and Chow, Hirji and Chow, CHAULLP, and we're in Culver City. And if you want to contact us, we're on the web, or the phone number here is 310-391-0330.
Fabulous. And we thank you for the time, and we thank them for your time being here with us. We've had a lot of questions in the last couple of weeks that came through because we told people that you were going to be doing a show or multiple shows about IEPs. Oh, I didn't let you give the disclaimer first. The disclaimer, Bonnie.
We can give the disclaimer. These questions are being answered under California law and under federal law. They're general in nature. Your own specific situation requires a specific consultation with an attorney. So, take this all with that notion in mind. The reason I answered that way is I'm licensed to practice in California, and if you're admitted in federal court, which I am, you can practice in the 50 states. So we do our best to give you information that'll be helpful, since so many people who participate with questions are from California. There's a bit of a California slant, but a lot of these concepts occur across all the 50 states because the rights you have under IDEA, certain fundamental rights, like let's say the right to parental participation in an IEP meeting, which we're going to be talking about, are there for all the 50 states that have IDEA. So with that, I think what we're going to talk about first is classroom observations, right?
Yes. And so we had some specific questions, and then there are some general things that you're going to talk about. But we have had a question. Do you have it there in front of you, Bonnie? Because I am seeing that I don't. You don't have it in front?
I do.
Oh, you do?
No, I do.
Okay.
I was just actually looking up something I wanted to give everybody. Okay, so question. When are the time limits, or what are the time limits, when a parent or professionals like BCBAs want to do a school observation? Now, because I think that question is susceptible of more than one interpretation, I'm going to answer it in a couple different ways. Usually, as you know, what happens is the district does the initial evaluation, they do a multidisciplinary team assessment, and then unless there's a reason to do further observation, they won't assess again for 3 years. But in theory, they can assess as often as at least once a year. And sometimes parents are a little surprised to hear this, but if you want to get services from the district and people ask you if they can do an observation of your child, if you say no, the law basically says you're not going to be able to get services, essentially. I mean, it's a little more attenuated than that. But one of the things we have to talk about sometime is why, we tell parents not to refuse when all their instincts tell them they want to refuse. But that's a different topic. But what I wanted to say about district observations is they have access to the pupil generally because she is in their school. And they are not limited at all in terms of the amount of time that they can take in order to observe the student. They can do it over multiple days. They can do it in different settings. They can do it with different people on the same team. And what they're trying to do, what they're supposed to do, is come to some understanding of the unique needs of the student by both these observations and the testing that they do. Now, the other problem that you have as a parent, if you want to contest their findings, is they're going to say, well, we're there every day with him. We've spent 20 hours observing him. You haven't seen him at all. And so the way the law used to work, if a parent wanted to do a school observation in California, was you had to do it before you filed for due process. That was the rule. And the rationale was, if you were asking for this evaluation after you'd already filed for due process, you were already rejecting the placement. And so what would the purpose be in allowing you to see the placement? Now, we got into an observation fight with Long Beach, probably, I think, in the early 2000s. I don't think I've talked about this on the show. If I have, tell me, Shannon.
I don't think so.
Okay. Anyway, what happened was the district offered a placement, and they wouldn't let us see it because we'd already filed for due process. And so we actually got involved in litigation. We lost at the district court level. We had to file something in district court on the right to observe, but we won at the appellate level. And that case is called, I believe it's called Benjamin G. versus State Hearing Office. It may be called Benjamin G. or Gaster, Gaster versus Long Beach. If people want to see it, I can dig it up and get the citation next week. But anyway, it was a good decision for us. It was a really good decision. It didn't go far enough, as you'll see in a minute, but it was a good decision, and here's why. The appellate court looked at the reasons why parents would want to do a classroom observation, and they said there's a thread running all through IDEA that parental participation in the IEP is a very important thing. And how can a parent meaningfully make a decision about a placement if they're not able to observe it and observe it with a qualified professional who actually has the kind of knowledge and discrimination abilities to decide whether or not it's a good place for the student or not. And there's a lot of stuff in the Benjamin G. decision about how experts level the playing field and stuff like that. So after that, it worked differently in California, because now the law was amended to read, if the district has done an in-class observation of the pupil or has a policy which allows for it, so that's quite wide open, then the parent is entitled to an equivalent opportunity. And as these things go, what then began to happen was the district, read the statute, figured out where the holes were, and said, well, that's fine, you can have your observation, but you can't, let's say, I've never had a situation where I've gotten an equivalent opportunity, and probably that, that's because I would have to go back into court. But typically they'll do 5 or 10 hours of observation. Then, as some of you know, when we ask to have our professional, possibly accompanied with a parent, possibly not, accompany the evaluator, and we say we want the evaluator to observe, several things, they start to block us and say it's too disruptive, you can't be there for that long on that day, you can have your 90 minutes, but you have to come back 3 different times. Because the Gaster case didn't specifically say how these observation parameters were going to work. They just basically said you get an equivalent opportunity. It doesn't matter whether or not you filed for due process. And so in some cases, when they block us now, what we do is we file a motion with the hearing office, a motion to observe the classroom. But so going back to your answer, what are the time limits? Well, in theory, you're entitled to an equivalent opportunity. And that's why, if I've got my thinking cap on straight, like yesterday, I went to an IEP meeting, they'd done observations. I asked the professionals how much time they spent looking at the child in her classroom, et cetera, because in the future, if I need to do my own observation, then I need to be able to say, well, you guys spent 3 hours, so what is this business about how I can only have a half an hour? I think the last thing I want to say about this is that districts will try to confuse you by saying, well, this has to be conducted pursuant to our visitor policy. That's completely wrong, and the visitors' policies are typically 30 minutes. The thing that the district is actually bound by instead is the observation statute. And as I said, the question is, what opportunity did the district have? And you're entitled to an equivalent opportunity. But we have to fight the districts, nothing has changed really since we did that case. Districts don't want people to look at their placements, and that just makes them look so guilty. And it isn't really true that it's disruptive, because they have people come in there all the time. I need to stop talking like a robot, but this is really something that I just find to be so outrageous. And I think about it every time I buy a blouse, or I look at a car, or I pick out a puppy, ha ha ha. But really, the whole idea is, if you have something that you want to sell to somebody, what do? You show it to them. You make them like it. You make them excited about it. Well, guess what, people? That's not happening in California. I can think of one case that I have right now in a district where they are so concerned about the kid and they don't know what to do about him that they've let our evaluator come in and spend the whole day there. That has never happened before in my practice life. So I'm soapboxing a little bit. Probably the way to get me off the soapbox is I'm going to read you the next question, unless you have a question, Shannon.
No, what I'm hearing though from that, Bonnie, is that now whenever I talk to parents about IEPs, what I just think it's brilliant what you said. So whenever they assess our kids, while things are going well, we should just ask the question of how many hours did you use to assess? Because at that point, they're trying to impress us. When they're offering us their faith and we're saying, what are you basing it on? They like to say, we spent hours on this. And that's the point at which we need to ask, make a note. That's why we need tape recorders, keep that filed, so that when things go south, we can come back and go, well, you told us you took 20 hours. Because they were trying to impress us before, but that's going to get them in a sticky wicket. And I don't believe that schools know that that's what the rule is, but it's brilliant that that's what the rule is, and we can use that. So that's a goodie in and of itself, Bonnie.
I mean, and I guess a side comment about this is district assessments are often not, maybe they do a lot of observation, but oftentimes their assessments are very quick. And if you look at their functional behavior assessments, they oftentimes really cut corners in terms of collecting data. So you really want to know who did what and how long did it take.
Yep.
And then we have a whole other show that we're not going to do today about how you get an independent educational evaluation paid for by a school district. That's for later. Anyway, the next question is, what are the things to look for when looking for an appropriate placement with a child with ASD mild and ADHD inattentive type? We live in California. Well, I guess just, kind of bouncing off my other comment, it would sure help if the placement was willing to let you come and spend a lot of time there so you could really see what's going on. When I was looking at regular ed placements for my third son who does not have an IEP, I found it very difficult to figure out whether it was a good or bad placement. I actually brought a friend of mine in who had homeschooled all her children to see what she thought about the classroom. I brought my husband because he's a classroom teacher. I don't think it's easy, and they don't like you to see it. So I guess there's word of mouth. There's, if you have ASD mild and ADHD inattentive type, not hyperactive type, but you're going to need somewhere that it's a smaller classroom. The person doesn't say, well, the person says ASD mild. Essentially what we need for a lot of our kiddos that have autism and or ADHD overlay is we need the equivalent of a general ed classroom, but we need it to look like a private school where there are 13 kids in the class. Because you can educate a student with ASD mild and ADHD inattentive type in a general ed setting, and it will be the best for him or her in terms of peer modeling and interesting and everything else. But when those numbers get up above 25, it's just overwhelming. But I guess my general answer to the question is, maybe you can find a charter school with small class size. You need somewhere where that person can be too, where the staff understand that his ADHD and its manifestations are not volitional bad behavior, but for example, the person may need to stretch, the person may need certain types of accommodations. So you sort of need a general ed classroom that's small, and you need a teacher whose attitude is that they're there to serve all kids. And that's what the real teachers think. They think they're there to serve all kids. So that's about, I think, all I can say about that. Are there assessments we can do to help decide between an IEP and Section 504 eligibility? Section 504 in lieu of an IEP is not a good idea for people with autism. It's a bad idea. Section 504 is an anti-discrimination statute. It means that if you're in a place of public accommodation or you're attending school in a public school, you can't be told you have autism, so you can't play on the golf team. Okay? It doesn't help you in the slightest, really, with your education. There's no assessment, unique needs that are based on assessment. There's no goals and objectives. There's no service entitlement. And the worst thing about 504 is there's no disciplinary protections. So districts shunt people off of the IEP track and onto the 504 track in order to avoid having to put an extra case on their special ed caseload. I can't think of any reason that a 504 plan would be better for somebody than an IEP. Now, once you have an IEP, your writer-inner is correct, you're eligible for both. But a 504 plan doesn't help our kids much. And even though there's supposed to be some kind of 504 process, they don't have to give you a meeting, and if you don't like their decision, they're supposed to have some appeal process. None of the attorneys ever deals with 504, because 504 is not a useful statute unless you've got a discrimination claim, it's not education, that you're focusing on, and then, yeah, it might make sense to bring claims under Section 504. So this person also asks, so you don't need assessments, you just need to trust me on that one. But I suppose what your assessments would have to show if you needed a 504 plan and not an IEP, you can't have an IEP unless you need special education and related services to benefit from your education. I suppose if you had autism, but you were working at grade level and you had no social issues or executive functioning issues, when is that ever going to be the case? Maybe you would just need a 504 plan that says he needs a little more processing time and he needs, prompting during the day to stay on track. But it's not going to do much for you. It's not a useful statute for me, for my clients most of the time. This person also says, does the student have to be pulled out by a resource teacher in order to have an IEP? And the answer to that is no. There's tons of students that are in general ed. They may have no pull-out services. They may not have any other special supports, but if they need special education and related services to benefit from their education, they get an IEP. So maybe you're a general ed student, but you experience fatigue by the end of the day, and so you need modified homework, or you need a note taker, or you need help with your organization. You do not have to be pulled out by a resource teacher in order to qualify for an IEP. You qualify for an IEP if you have a qualifying disability, and we'll go over this more when we start talking about the IEP process, and you need special education and related services to benefit from your education. Now, here's the thing. When the student turns 18, he or she transitions to adulthood and assumes responsibility for his education, and at that point, the team writes vocational goals and starts thinking about what's going to happen at transition when this person goes out into the workforce. If your student is at grade level and doesn't need any help with academics, he or she could still benefit from an IEP that would work on social deficits and problems with executive functioning, things that are going to help this person get a job when they hit the magic age of 18 and they graduate with a high school diploma. If you can't pass a job interview, it doesn't matter how good a student or worker you are. So don't let districts trick you into saying that the student doesn't qualify for an IEP because he doesn't need academic remediation. There can be cases where somebody has emotional disturbance and they need therapeutic and behavior services. They may not need help with their academics. So I think I've beaten that one to death.
While you're taking a pause, and we don't have very much more time, Bonnie, I have to say that. But I just want to say that we've had a bunch of questions come in since you started today. I want to particularly say that Crystal says, Bonnie Yates is a game changer. Your expertise, knowledge of special needs law, and compassion changed our son's life forever. And she says, thank you, Bonnie.
Wow.
We have
Thank
other...
Kind of blown away.
We have other people. Somebody wrote in a question that we're going to save for another day about what is the rule around suspension and expelling the child from a program. We'll need to save that for another day. And but we did have a question specifically about what you were talking about. That David wants to know, does Common Core have anything to play into any of this that we've been talking about? It doesn't, right?
Common Core is a whole big topic because it's, if you talk to the Linda Bell people, they don't think it works well at all for a lot of our kids because it requires you to hold concept imagery in your mind in a certain way that can be hard for people with autism or ADHD. I'm not an expert in that. She's actually coming to train all the lawyers about how children with autism learn how to read. So I'll know more about that after Anne's presentation. But can I squish like one more thing in here?
Yes,
I mean, how many?
let's squish
Okay.
one more thing in.
Okay, so does an IEP goal need to be tied to a school service? Presumably it does, but the service in question could be time in the general ed class, and the person responsible for the goal could be the general ed teacher. So most of the time the goal is going to be tied to a standalone service. But yeah, there's no point in writing goals for things you aren't going to work on. Does that make any sense? If you don't need it and you don't work on it, you're not going to complete it in a year, then it doesn't belong in there. If academic and social skills are worked on with a social group outside of school, can the goals still be on the IEP? Okay, the simple answer is yes. The longer discussion is what happens when our kiddos need services outside of school or after school and the district tries to block us. But I think maybe it's time for me to like put the duct tape over my mouth and let you finish the program.
But it's so good, Bonnie, and I so love that we have the time to be able to do this every week and that people can write in questions, and I encourage people to, we do like to give Bonnie the opportunity to have the question in advance of the show. So if you have a question that you would like Bonnie to answer, send it ahead of the show, and then I send them to her hopefully by Tuesday of that week. It should be earlier. So that she has an opportunity to mull it over, think about it, look up case law, refer. We get a better, I love to pick Bonnie's mind just in the moment, but the truth is you prefer it and we get a better response from you that's more thorough if we give you a little bit of gestation time on it.
Well, that's true because your listeners are a very sophisticated audience that asks good questions, and they've sort of raised my consciousness on certain issues. I mean, the whole issue of seclusion and restraint that we haven't even dealt with, blew me out of the water when, because a reader asked about, or a listener asked about it, I started reading about it. So yeah, I mean, I love the questions. I love the questions. You guys are doing great stuff. I can't thank you enough.
Well, we love you, Bonnie. You have always been making a difference, and now that we're being able to spread that to other people, it's a really great fit. So we'll continue then with IEPs next week, if that's okay with you.
It is.
And perhaps we can throw in this question about suspension and expelling as well.
Oh, no, that's a whole day.
That's a whole day. All right.
All
right. So for the person who wrote that in, will you please tell us if that's a general question or if that's an urgent question? Because if it's somebody's been suspended or expelled and it's an urgent question, then I want to make sure that we know that. In any case, I'm sorry, Bonnie.
People have an urgent question, they can call. I mean, the whole point of this isn't just to be abstract. If you have a disciplinary issue, assume it's an urgent question.
Okay. And again, tell the information about the law firm so they know where to go, what to do.
Sure. You know my name, Bonnie Yates. The name of the firm is Kierji and Chow. Our phone number is 310-391-0330, and we're on the web also.
Okay.
So,
Bonnie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll talk next week. Take
care.
All
right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
And that was the fabulous Bonnie Yates, special education attorney. And we're going to take a break. And then when we come back, joining us via Skype, we're going to have Julie Dipp from OC Autism. Stick with us.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids. What are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Welcome back, you guys. I misspoke because it was time for Autism in the Classroom. So, and then we're going to have Julie, and don't forget that after Julie, we have Matt Asner, who's going to be here with us. And so this is a new segment that we're doing on each Thursday show called Autism in the Classroom, because I don't know about you, as a former teacher, it has become very important to me that we're not giving teachers the tools that they need. And we do have more and more teachers who are watching the show and writing in and asking questions about how do I do this in the classroom? What do I do? And I think more and more parents are writing in and saying, you know, I've gotten my home program together, or I've gotten my center-based program together, but my frustration is school. And I'm trying to shore that up for you. So, you know, like what to do for the IEP and what to know what your rights are, but then also we can't just like know what our rights are and stand there and go do it, because if people don't have the tools, you know what I mean? And I remember being a classroom teacher, and in the beginning, nobody gave me any tools. And then gradually, I went out and started finding them on my own. So I want to make a place where our parents can find tools to give teachers, and our teachers can find tools, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, for those good teachers who, you know, you lay awake at night and go, what am I going to do about this kid? I want to make sure that I can reach this kid. So our autism, and by the way, it won't just be me doing autism in the classroom tips. I've been lining up people, I've been meeting with people. We're going to start having some really amazing educators on the show who are going to give tips about how they get things done. So our tip today for autism in the classroom is that everybody needs a job. And I mean that both literally and figuratively, right? One of the purposes of education, and one of the things that's outlined in FAPE, is that it needs to be helping our children to be able to have productive lives, which includes a job. And I think we all need to get on that page and helping to have our kids be ready and not have it be a surprise. There are going to be people who are going to tell you over and over and over again, well, kid with autism, they're probably not going to have a job. I'm asking all of you to reject that because it isn't the truth, and it doesn't have to be the truth. So we want to be working in our education process to be looking at what's the end goal, educated so that they can have a job that's meaningful to them, because that's what a meaningful life looks like. And so how do we start that? By a microcosm in the classroom. And the truth of the matter is you can see the benefit in a classroom, because how do we get inclusive in a classroom? How do we make people want to do good things? How do we make them want to learn? Everybody needs to feel like they have a seat at the table. And how do we do that? Simply, one of the tricks of doing it is to give people a job. So we see this in kindergarten classes. If there's a kindergarten teacher who runs their class really well, they have a visual thing that's up on the board that says, you know, the person who's leading the Pledge of Allegiance today is Bobby, and the person who's turning off the lights, who's in charge of closing the door, is, you know, Sue. And each one of the jobs is clearly defined on a visual schedule. That's a kindergarten teacher who's rocking it. And by the way, that's good for all the kids in the classroom, not just the kids who are on the autism spectrum. But sometimes by the time we get to second, third grade, teachers feel that that's not necessary, or maybe that's too baby. And I say poppycock to that. Let's move the jobs up to meet the age limit. What we see sometimes is that they'll say, oh, well, you know, they pick the two kids who are the ones who are the best at executive functions, and have them be the classroom monitors that pass out the papers. And I'm suggesting that we have it be fair and equitable, and that we make sure that every single person in the classroom has a job. And sometimes we create a job because it's what's right for that student. My quick example, because I know we've got guests galore, when I was first teaching a 7th grade class, and I didn't have all the tools that I wanted to, and I got to read with them my favorite childhood book, A Wrinkle in Time. I couldn't have been more excited, and I went into this classroom, and I had one student who I mean, was all but tearing the walls down, and I really did not know what to do. And I started going to everybody and trying to figure out what makes this kid tick. And what I found out was that he was not doing well in any of his classes, failing all of them except art. And he had an A in art. And the more I got to know this kid, I discovered that he could not read. And I'm his English teacher, right? It was a difficult thing. Well, I needed to give this kid a job. And so what I did, I needed him to sit and listen as we were reading out loud so that he would get interested in this book. I knew he would get interested in it. So I made him our class illustrator. And his job every day that we would, and there was just a portion of the class that we would read aloud, was to draw whatever he heard. Now, suddenly I had a student who was listening. And at the end of the class, he had to stand in front of the class and show them what he drew. And they all went, whoa, that is so, because he was a beautiful, beautiful artist. It gave him self-worth, gave him self-esteem. And before the end of the semester, that child was reading. But it was because we gave him a job. There's a job for everyone. Find out what job, again, we did DRI today, differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. A child who has a job is not acting out, because while they're doing the job and getting praise for it, they can't be throwing spitballs, spitting on their hand, hitting the person next to them, pulling the ponytail. It's DRI. Full circle moment. Give them a job, and we will train them that having a job is the thing to do. That's our Autism in the Classroom tip. It's time to get on the phone with Julie, and I believe that Matt Asner is here as well. Stick with us.
Hey everybody, this is Joe Marisi. We're here live in Fullerton, California at the historic Fox Theater. And we're here tonight for the 4th annual comedy show for autism put on by the Fullerton Cares Foundation. And we're just hanging out outside the theater here, and we're going to go talk to some folks right now and see what brought them out tonight.
My name is Larry Hauser. I'm the founder of the Fullerton Cares Autism Foundation, and the one putting on this whole event. That's me and my crew.
Larry, doing this for 4 years, what is it that you like best about this event?
What I like best about this event is there's a lot of people in this area that don't normally go to like walks or any like stuffy fundraiser events. This is something that those people don't come to, but they want to support. So that's why I really love this particular event is because of that.
A lot of fun. Now, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with here?
I am the Fullerton School District Board President, and I'm taking a lot of the money from tonight. This is a wonderful event, and we can't wait to have the comedy and raise the money for a worthy cause.
Events, try to help raise money for the events, and seems like I said, Larry seems to do all the work and get the crew going, and he just directs us around, and we try to pick up the cash for him.
Awesome, Brian. And Brian, what is it in your 4 years coming to the event? What is it that you like the most about it?
The comedians. I mean, last year we had a full lineup. This year I think the lineup's going to be even better, and I mean, you can't beat it.
The event is the way that our community comes together, that everybody supports Fullerton Cares and supports the families that are part of Fullerton and that show up and create a really great environment for our kids to grow up in.
I'm actually out here to support my good friend Larry Hauser. Happy to be back and happy to support my buddy.
What I like the best is the amount of people that actually come out and support us and support the cause, because they know it's a good cause, it's a local cause, local charity, and so it's just nice to see the community come together for something that's for the community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Look who I found out in the control room, and I made him come in. But we're going to talk a lot with Matt. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a lot with Matt in just a few minutes. But first, we have an interview with Julie Dipp, and I'm really excited. It's the first time that we've had her on the show. We've talked about her before and talked about things happening in the OC, but we've never had Julie on before. So first of all, welcome, Julie.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
There you
It's a
are. You're
pleasure.
so beautiful. There's your beautiful shining face. And Julie, let's talk, because you wear a lot of different hats. And one of the things that I had said to folks earlier is that you were coming to talk to us because you're from OC Autism, and I want to talk about that. But you are also a speech and language pathologist, and you do a lot of work with New Hope Therapy Center. Maybe talk a little bit about yourself and all the many different things that you do for a second.
Well, first of all, I'm an adult with special needs, and I think a lot of people don't know that. So I have ADHD, dyslexia, and through my struggles as a child and my success as an adult and a professional, I became very passionate about helping my community. So I founded OC Autism, and I'm also the founder and director of New Hope Therapy Center.
Wow. Well, I don't know if I had known that you,
I didn't know that.
to see there, Matt and I are both stunned and gobsmacked, as they say, because Julie, you get a lot done. You're a woman who gets a lot done with OC Autism, and you get a lot done in terms of your in terms of New Hope Therapy Center. So I kind of want to give you the floor for a couple of minutes, because you always have a lot of things going on. Talk to us about, if somebody is in Orange County, why they need to know about New Hope Therapy Center and what OC Autism is up to.
Well, in Orange County, we first of all have a great network of friends and families that we call our community. And a lot of misperceptions that they think OC Autism is only about Orange County, but what we've extended to be is for our community, for autism, and it extends as far as our reach, and even the internet can support us. But for me, I'm a speech therapist who has a medical background, so I work with adults with strokes and brain injury. And I also have a behavioral background, so I do have a postgrad in ABA. So my passion has always been about autism. All the things I've done for autism, and my energy would be, I would attribute it to my, what they call a disability, but, my body craves work. I guess you can call me a workaholic. I love my community. I love all the friendships that I made, everywhere I go and everything I do about autism. I don't feel like it's work, because it's about reuniting with my friends again and working for the common cause. So, I think through everything that I've done, I just find so much passion in it. And I think the niche that I've learned to have with autism is not something that I've actually handpicked. I never woke up one day and I want to be a speech pathologist. I was a typical underachiever. So in high school, I got lots of D's and F's. I was always told that I was dumb, I was lazy, I was disrespectful, and I had a teacher tell me that even. And so I actually, last year, if you remember, I did my first OC Autism Gala. Even though OC Autism has been around for 7 years, I've actually been personally funding a lot of my work. But right now, our community is getting bigger than I can handle. Our last Christmas party brought out 2,500 people. And, right now it's about, coming together and finding different ways to help out. So, I feel so blessed to know you and know Matt, and even have, an opportunity to wear many hats, because as you know, when you see me at different events, sometimes you see me as a photographer, sometimes you see me as a volunteer. I don't believe there's any job too big or too small, but I think the job that makes me, that is most rewarding to me, it's the job of connecting with a family, so being that mentor, being that person that provides a resource has always been, that has always brought me the biggest pride and joy.
Well, and you do that amazingly. Where can people go to find out more information about New Hope Therapy Center?
Well, New Hope Therapy Center, I'll be honest, I focus so much on OC Autism that everybody knows me for OC Autism.
Okay.
New Hope Therapy Center is my private practice, but I haven't yet had a chance to even do my website.
Okay.
For me, I get so many referrals, but I do have a website up. I mean, it only says it's coming, but it's newhopetherapycenter.com. OCautism.org is our nonprofit charity website. we actually get up to 20,000 hits a month. And the reason is that, you know, we try I try my best to organize volunteers every week and do an event calendar. So anytime you have an event, Matt has an event, you know, Larry from Fullerton Cares, you know, anybody who has an event that's related to autism, I put it on there. Because for me, I try not to really filter and put my personal bias into what I do. I want to put all the events out there for families to pick and choose which one they want to go to and that they feel comfortable with, that makes the best match for them.
Well, honestly, I believe that anybody who's in Southern California should absolutely go to ocautism.org, because you do give a lot of resources there, Julie. But I also think that, I hope that, and I expect you'll probably get a bunch of people who will want to know more about your private practice, because honestly, I mean, we're two parents sitting here, being able to find a speech and language pathologist who has an understanding of ABA, you know, that's a unicorn that we all want to find.
Yeah, and I just want to say, way to go for speaking out about your disability, because
yeah,
I have a similar past, and I was a student that people thought was dumb, and I had teachers tell me that.
Wow.
And we had very similar stories. I didn't even know that about you, so we should talk about that sometime. You know, I don't know about you, but my parents are the ones that got me through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they got me the help that I needed.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, from a personal standpoint, I didn't really know my niche. You know, speaking about parents, I lost my mom when she was 57. And when I lost my mom, I actually quit my job at the school district, opened my own practice. And the first year of my private practice, you know, I identified about 100 kids that were not getting the services they need, or not getting the medical attention or the diagnosis. So that's kind of how OC Autism started. It was just, you know, realizing that there is not a lot of guidance in Orange County, and, you know, having, and also, you know, one of the reason why you see me throwing so many parties, and I love parties and I love entertainment, but the main reason why I throw big parties is because when I had my private practice, when I started 10 years ago, families would ask, well, I would ask my families during the holidays, oh, what are you doing for Christmas? What are you doing for Thanksgiving? And the answer was, well, we're going to stay home. We don't want to come to someone else's house. Oh, we're not welcome. My child's going to break something. And I feel so many families feeling so isolated. So I started throwing a small party in my little office. And 7 years ago was 30 people. A year later became 100, 500, 1,000, and last year was 2,500. So we don't grow by 2, we grow by 10 and 100. So it is really thanks to all my friends, you know, because we really truly make friendships, and we're always available for each other. And there is no job that is too big or too small for me, you know. So, you know, Matt, you know, you can call me anytime too.
Well, and honestly, any time you do go to an event, it's what she speaks is truth.
Absolutely.
She's there and she's doing something.
And tireless.
Yes, tireless, absolutely tireless. Is there an event that you have coming up soon, Julie, that you want to promote before we say goodbye?
Well, we are planning for our April Light It Up Blue for our community, and you know, for us, we do it because we have a very good connection with the city of Garden Grove. So they do light up the clock tower for us. And, you know, the reason is that, you know, for us, we always debate whether we're going to do it, whether we should do it, what the reason for is and against. But at the end of the day, you know, putting all of them, you know, our discussions aside, we decided that we wanted to make it special for the family and let the city show their appreciation. So we are planning for an April event. We haven't set up a specific date, but you know, if you tune into our website or follow us on Facebook, we'll definitely see that we're going to be doing a taco evening and having, you know, fruits and desserts, and working with the school district, with the Garden Grove School District. And you know, the kids with special needs the special needs classroom are making our centerpieces. They're baking for us. They're actually doing all of this for us, you know, and I feel so blessed to work with so many great friends in the community.
Well, Orange County and all of Southern California is lucky to have you, Julie. And again, we want to tell people ocautism.org, go there, check it out. And if you're in the area, look at some of the events that they're doing and make yourself available to do that. Julie, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing you at the next event. Bye-bye.
See you in April, Julie.
There you go, bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk with Mr. Matt Asner about something that he has coming up in Orange County. There you have it.
Yes, that's true.
That's true. All right, stick with us. Back after these messages.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago, and there were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grandpichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grandpichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so excited because I got my old friend back here with me. It feels like good times.
Back in the co-pilot seat.
Yes.
I guess, right?
Well, but honestly, I think you do better than I do in this seat, if I'm telling the truth. And we should just say,
not a chance.
Well, Matt has been coming here for a while and being a guest with us, and he's been a regular. But then you also have your own show that you do here, and that has changed and morphed a little bit. But we expect you to come back.
I want to come back, so we'll be talking about it.
And you know we do.
At some point in the near future, you never know, you'll probably see me in that seat over there.
There we go. And we would all love and appreciate that, right? But how have you been? Let's start there.
I've been good. Family life's good. Everything's good.
Yes.
Nava and the kids are good. Everyone's good.
And for anybody who doesn't know, we refer to Matt's family as being the Brady Bunch of Autism because you have a blended family. You and Nava have found love at this point. She came to the marriage with 4 children, 2 on the spectrum. You came to the marriage with 2 children, 1 on the spectrum. So there's 6 kids, 3 on the spectrum.
And you know what that adds up to, right?
A whole lot of fun.
Never a dull moment.
Okay, I was close. I was close.
That is a whole lot of fun.
It is a whole lot of fun. And in fact, there was a show done about your family that's available on the internet that was done basically for Australian TV. Is that correct?
For New Zealand.
For New Zealand
For New
TV.
Zealand
Which was really lovely. And I don't know why somebody hasn't picked that up and done an ongoing series. You're smiling because maybe
No.
is that happening? I don't know why somebody hasn't picked that up because it was, I know you guys, and it was fun to watch.
No, it was fun to do. I mean, it was kind of weird having the cameras there all the time, but but it was fun. It was fun to do, and I think it was effective in what it presented.
Absolutely.
A loving family who's dealing with things that a lot of other people are dealing with, and we have our own kind of unorthodox way of dealing with things.
Because you have to.
And what we do have in our house is a lot of love and a lot of really wonderful, intelligent, gifted people.
Yes.
So it makes it really easy to go home at night and deal with whatever stress we have to deal with.
And you always have something more. I think that's one of the things that I got from it that I wished I'd known when my son was first diagnosed, because I've shared this before on the show that when my son was diagnosed, I was like, oh, we're dealing with autism. So in my head, that meant everything else goes away. This was the card we were dealt, the autism card. So when my landlord died and we found out he hadn't been paying the rent and I now was about to be homeless, I was like, no. And when my best friend was diagnosed with cancer, I was like, I'm sorry, did someone not get the memo that we got dealt the autism card? We don't get this other stuff.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
Real life can't come in here.
And then you start getting to this thing about, oh my gosh, am I the only person in the world who's dealing with autism and about to be homeless? And of course,
well,
everybody
we
has
kind of
been
dealt
there.
with a little bit of that too.
Exactly.
In our little television thing.
Exactly.
And ironically, it was a year ago. And ironically, here we go, we're going to move again.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Well, this time I have to be a better friend. Last time I said I was going to help and I was going to bring you boxes.
Yeah, bring the boxes.
And I didn't, and it didn't happen. And I still feel bad about it a year later. So this time I will be a better friend because that's overwhelming when it's time to move.
Yes, Nava deals with it much better than I do.
Yeah, you said she was on it.
Yeah, I'm a bit of an ostrich when it comes to moving. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to put my head in the sand. But she's amazing. She's a incredible, organized person when it comes to moving.
Well, even, I love getting to spend time with the son that I know that you have. And Will had come in, it was during the period of time that you were moving, you were doing your show. He came in and spent the day with us in the control room.
Yes.
And at some point I said something to him. I said, Will, how are you? And he said the most amazing thing. It was something along the lines of, I'm just happy to sit down and not have to pack a box. It was like so amazing. But it told me so much about the fact that she had put him to work and that he knew exactly what it was to have to move and that he had been doing these things. It was such a healthy moment.
He comes out with those gold nuggets every now and then.
It was and there was something about the phrase, the way he did it, that was just like, I just was like, good for you.
Yeah.
It was a sign of all kinds of good things happening. So I was impressed with Nava. I was impressed with him. I was impressed with how great he was doing. It was just a great, great thing. So I believe that Nava knows how to move.
She definitely knows how to move.
I might have to come and take some notes because I don't know how to move. It's chaos when I move.
She will provide you with lots of crib notes.
Okay, all right, because I might have to do that soon too. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about families doing okay. You're going to give our love to Nava and to all the kids. And for people who are tuning in and aren't as familiar with you, Matt, you are with Autism Society of America.
I am.
And that's a relatively new thing.
Since September.
Yes. But you've been in the field of autism for a very long time, and as we said, you've got a biological son who's on the autism spectrum, and you have a blended family where there's 3 kids on the spectrum.
A brother.
And a brother, yes. And your dad, for anybody who can't do the math on it, is the fabulous, many award-winning, including last night.
Yes, he just won a Canadian Emmy.
Which is what for?
He won a Canadian Emmy for something called. Forgive Me, I think it's called.
Okay.
And it was he played a priest who was involved in a scandalous activity and got the Canadian Emmy.
How about that?
I'm
Was he
very
there
proud
to
of him.
accept?
He wasn't. He wasn't.
Okay.
His manager was there and accepted the award for him.
Okay.
But he was very happy to have won. He was just in Canada. He was doing a film with Anna Paquin and Stephen Moyer and a bunch of other people. Melissa Leo, an independent film over there.
And are we allowed to ask how old your dad is now?
My dad is 87.
Okay, and still working. We were talking
still
before about
working.
how important it is to have a job.
Yes. I asked him once. I said, Dad, what would you be doing if you weren't an actor?
Right.
And he said to me, thought for a moment, he gave a dramatic pause, as only he can do.
Yes.
And really made it work for him. And he said, well, he goes, the alternative is too horrible to discuss. And I believe it.
I believe that too. Well, we've been thinking about him a lot. I know he's suffered a lot of losses this year, his brother and Mary Tyler Moore. And so please give him our love.
I will. He's he got hit hard by that. It was within a week of each other, and I think it was threw him for a loop. And as he said, it really said a lot about my own mortality.
I'm sure.
So he was a little trepidatious for a couple of weeks, but he's back to complaining about everything.
All right. Well, that's a good thing. I turned on the television the other day, and Roots was on. I don't know why, but Roots was on, and it was there was your dad in Roots, and I was looking. I was like, "Is this Roots? Is this?" And there was your dad in Roots, very much younger.
That's right. You go through the history of television and find him in all the history of television.
He's there.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, well,
actually.
the history
Someone should
of
do
film.
that. Someone should go through the history of television and find Ed Asner.
Just find him,
yeah.
Well, he's a working actor. Okay, but so let's talk a little bit about, because you got something coming up, and I teased it a little bit.
Yes.
I said it has to do with Ben Affleck, and it has a little bit to do with what's the Disney movie?
Pixar, Inside Out.
Inside Out. That's
so basically, okay. So I like to do big things.
Yes, you
know.
do.
So I didn't wait long, and now we're doing something big at Autism Society.
I love it.
We're really excited about it. It's called AutFest.
Okay.
And it's the first international autism film festival in Orange, California.
Yes.
At the AMC 30 at the Block of Orange. We're going to be there 2 days.
When is this?
April 22nd and 23rd.
Okay.
And we're showing 10 films.
Okay.
So 9 feature films and a block of shorts.
Okay.
And some of the films we're featuring are The Accountant, and Ben Affleck is going to be there. He's going to do a Q&A with the audience. And he's also going to come and receive an honorary award for his performance in The Accountant. Where he plays an autistic man.
I just saw it the other day. I want to say that we had reached out to the director of the film when it was opening to be on the show, and he chose not to be on our little show. And I'm going to hold that against him and invite him. He's still welcome to come back, and I'll even be nice about it. But I heard that there was some trepidation, that they were concerned about how the autism community was going to receive it. I watched the movie the other day, and I wished I'd watched it sooner because I would have been talking more about it. I think it's a film for everybody that everybody should be watching.
Well, I'll tell you something. He gave a great performance.
But also there is a bigger, I don't want to give it away for anybody, but there's something bigger in the movie that's more than just his portrayal of autism in the movie that I think is particularly, all those things involved, I think are particularly worthwhile for our community to get behind, watch, and support and talk about.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that I loved about the film, and
Yes.
look, I mean, we're honoring Ben, and he gave a great performance.
Yes.
But the thing I loved about the film is it's a film about a man
Yes.
who does some bad things.
Yes.
But it's a film about this character and his life and what's going on in his life. And he just happens to be autistic.
Yes.
And to me, that kind of role in a film, without really kind of, highlighting it as a problem or as a situation that needs addressing. He has autism. He's autistic.
Yeah.
And this is his character.
Yes.
And this is his life. And we're looking at his life. And to me, it says that we've gone the next level. We've gone to the next level.
I agree.
And now we are portraying people in films, and we're not necessarily talking about their autism.
Yes.
We're talking about their character.
Yeah.
We're talking about what they do for a living. We're talking about that. We've come a long way. That's a
And
great
his
thing.
particular circumstance.
And that should be celebrated.
Yes, I agree.
So that's why we're
completely.
honoring Ben.
I agree.
And Inside Out.
Yes, which I totally get?
We're honoring Jonas Rivera and Pete Docter from
Yeah.
Inside Out. And we chose to honor Pixar. We chose to honor Inside Out, specifically Inside Out. And we're going to be doing a sensory-friendly screening in Sunday morning at noon. You know, AMC has been a great partner of Autism Society doing sensory-friendly screenings.
Yes.
And so we're going to be doing a sensory-friendly screening of Inside Out with a Q&A with the director and producer, Jonas Rivera and Pete Docter, after the screening.
Love it.
And it's the first time this has ever happened. We're really excited about it.
Love it.
And it's going to be a wonderful thing because people, I think, want to talk to these people.
Yes.
And the reason we're honoring Pixar is because, not necessarily because they've done anything per se in the autism world, but what they've done for families and families of people with autism is immeasurable.
I agree.
I mean, anyone who has a child on the spectrum or knows an individual on the spectrum, they probably are in love with Pixar films. Yeah. They love Pixar films. I mean, you see Life Animated. There's a correlation there.
Yes.
And we wanted to honor them for the entertainment that they've given all of our families.
Well, you know, and I had said too when Inside came out, and I hope that they're going to do a sequel. But what I saw too, so often we talk about perspective taking and how do we teach perspective taking to kiddos that are on the spectrum and how do we teach about emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the greatest tools ever made for that.
I completely agree.
Because the fact that
and we had on the spectrum,
yes,
we had Jonas Rivera on,
yeah,
and we talked about that.
Exactly. And that's on our YouTube channel for those of you who missed it. That would be on the playlist. I was telling them earlier about make sure when you go to our YouTube channel, there's a button that says playlist. Go to that. You'll see all the categories, and there's a whole category that's on the spectrum with Matt Asner, and so that you'll find that interview there.
The very first show.
Was it?
It was.
I don't recall that. Well, that's fascinating.
I wanted to go in with a bang.
Well,
so,
you certainly did.
Jonas Rivera.
And it was really. And you know who else I talked about that we have an interview of? When I did the driving interview with Dr. Grandin. I talked with her about that film. She loved that movie.
Yeah.
She did not see it the same way that I did. That it's a tool for teaching kids about perspective taking. She was like, it was a great movie, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it was a great movie.
And it was. I mean, you can't argue with her about that or anything else.
You know, as a parent.
Yes.
Watching that film as a parent, I watched it as a parent, and so did Nava. We both sat there and we cried because you sit there and you just think, oh no, oh my gosh, you know, what have I done to my child? You know? And it's just it's a crazy experience to see. I never thought about any of that stuff, and they illustrate, you know, what happens at the coming of age.
Yes.
You know, and it was beautiful. It was just a beautifully told story and well layered and gorgeous. And so, sensory-friendly screening.
Yes.
Sunday morning, April 23rd.
Love it.
Tickets are available online.
Okay.
They have the website that they'll put up.
Samantha, can you put the website up for us of where they need to go for tickets? So those are two of the films.
Those are two of the films.
Right.
So the other films we have, and I'm going to try and do this by memory.
Okay.
So here we go. So Life Animated.
Which we love.
And we wanted to show that because it's really one of the best films about autism, I think.
Nominated for an Oscar this year.
Nominated for an Oscar. You know, Ron is an amazing guy. Roger Ross Williams, I don't know if you've met him.
No.
Incredible guy. And,
yes.
Unfortunately, they're not going to be there, but what we are going to do at Life Animated after the screening is we're going to have a siblings panel.
Lovely.
So we'll have siblings and people can ask them questions and we can find out what these incredible people in the lives of people with autism go through.
Yes.
And the incredible support that they give their brothers and sisters with autism. So Life Animated.
Okay.
Swim Team.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Which is a new documentary.
Okay.
And a very good documentary about a swim team of kids who are autistic.
Okay.
Then let's see. Destiny, which is a Chinese film.
Don't know it.
About a mother and a son.
Okay.
What she's going through to get her son the education he deserves.
Okay.
Then Renha, which is a Malaysian film.
Okay.
Both dramas.
You truly are international.
International.
Look at you.
Both dramas.
Okay.
And that's also a film about a family that has a young child on the spectrum. Then we have and now the block comes.
That's okay.
I mean, the films.
I have a question for you. In the meantime, I want to know what was the process? People had to submit their films. Was there an application?
Yes, people submitted their films, and we have a committee an incredible committee of filmmakers and people who have children on the spectrum and people on the spectrum.
Okay.
And they looked at the films and scored them.
Okay.
And then we brought everything back and kind of made our decision based on that. Like I said, we have nine feature films.
Okay.
And a block of shorts that I think are really going to knock everyone's socks off.
Now,
and you mentioned it. It's international.
Yes.
We have a film from Malaysia. We have a film from China. We have a film from Australia.
Okay.
We have a film from Canada. We're really excited that that the international community has kind of stepped up and sent their films in. For us to consider, and it's incredible.
Were you surprised at the number of films that you had to choose from?
Well, when we started the festival, the idea was I didn't know how many films we were going to get in.
Right.
But the idea was that we would do the festival, and the idea was to do it with films for the last 3 years.
Okay.
And just kind of take a look at the films from the last 3 years. Poe.
Poe is going to be there. We love Poe.
Poe is going to be one of the films, and John Asher and Julian are going to come in and do a Q&A after that film. And Jack of the Red Hearts, we're also going to feature
which
Jack
I
of
have
the Red
still
Hearts.
not seen. I cannot believe I've not seen that movie.
Here you go. Come down to the festival. You can see it there.
Okay.
What was I saying?
About the number of films. So were you surprised that there were as many films to choose from as you ended up getting to choose from?
Well, like I said, we were looking at 3 years, a bracket of 3 years.
Right.
And we had people asking us, to submit their films for films that have been
10 years ago.
Brilliant, wonderful films.
Yes.
That were made 10 years ago or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to steer clear of older films, not because they're old.
Right.
They're just as relevant today as they were back then. But I really wanted this to be a celebratory festival, a celebratory meeting.
Sure.
That celebrated films that were current and that had been recently in the theaters or were coming into the theaters.
And it encourages people to make more films, which
Right.
I'm sure is part of this. Are any of the films in any way made by people who are on the spectrum? Have we gotten to that point yet, or is that in future years?
Well, one of the calls to action or for submissions was for autistic filmmakers to submit their films. Most of the submissions that we got for autistic filmmakers were for the shorts category, and there will be some autistic filmmakers in the shorts category.
Okay.
A couple in particular. Danny Bowman's going to have a film in the shorts category. There's an incredible film called Even in Death.
Okay.
That is a short, and it's a wonderful, wonderful animated short about a young child whose grandmother, who gets a call at his school, and his grandmother is dying, and he has to come home. And he ends up kind of following death home to his house. And what happens when he gets to his house is really beautiful and sensitive and touching. And Nav and I both watched that film, and we were just in tears.
Oh, wow.
And it's beautifully animated and really just a gorgeous film. So that's a 5-minute short that will show a young man with autism made that.
Wonderful.
So we're really happy that we did get some submissions that had artists that were autistic.
I want to bring my son to this because my son is a budding filmmaker. He's more in the talking stage, and then he'll make, like a 40-second thing. But I want him to see.
Mm-hmm.
He got to go to a film festival with me recently for a film that I did, a short film that I was in, and he was like, they do this? Like, this can happen?
Yeah.
And so I want him to see that, in this scale and autism, I want him to see, because when we give our kids these role models to see, oh, this can happen, sometimes we get greater things. Now, we've got like 2 minutes left. What else do you need to tell our audience? Did we give them the website, Samantha, of where to go yet?
It's
Let's give them again.
Autfestasa.org or .com.
Okay.
Autfestasa.com.
And that's where we go to get tickets.
Tickets and all that. And the great thing, I've got a couple. We're going to go over a little bit here.
Okay. All right.
All right. So the great thing about Autfest, one of the great things about Autfest is I'm getting calls from people from around the country who say they bought tickets and they're coming. They're bringing their kids. They're coming from Atlanta, from Florida, and that to me says that we're doing something right.
Yes.
And it says, you know, that's what I wanted with this. I wanted something that was going to have an effect on people and that was going to make people say, hey, I want to go see that. I want to bring my family to that. It's just I'm very proud of what we've done. And I'm very proud of what my committee's done.
Yeah.
What Kaylee Millette, who works for me, she's been incredible. Scott Badish, the
He's
president of the
wonderful.
organization, has been incredible. My board
Yeah.
has been incredible. I think we're starting something here that's going to be an annual thing that will really be an
It'll live
important
on.
thing in the autism community and in the film community.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to switch gears now.
Okay.
I want to talk about one more thing.
Okay, let's do it.
We have a national conference coming up in July.
Yes, in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee.
Yes.
And I hope you come again. I know you were there.
We just
at
were
New
talking about it
Orleans.
yesterday. I still got to figure some
I
things
know you were
out.
there in New
I
Orleans.
did go to
and
New Orleans, and it's a great conference.
It's a great conference, and for professionals, for families looking for answers. Resource fairs
Yes.
are hard to come by now.
Yes.
It's difficult, and some are leaving, and it's difficult. And one of the greatest things about our conference is you can come and find answers, and you can see alternatives and wonderful things that you can look into.
It was truly, it's got a feel to it that has nothing else that I've been to before. First of all, I met more adults on the spectrum at that conference than any other place I've ever been. And it was very eye-opening to me, the things that they talked to me about. I came home with and I reevaluated some things and, looked at it in a different way. It was truly a meeting of all kinds of minds. If you really want to see the spectrum in all its glory, it's a great conference to go to. And there was so much information.
Yeah.
Any possible thing that you wanted to know about, somebody was presenting on or somebody had a booth. I mean, it really was a place where you could find anything.
And I'll tell you something. I'm seeing it from behind the scenes.
Right?
I have never been to a conference.
Oh, well, you're
so
gonna
I'm
love
seeing
it.
it. So I'm seeing it from behind the scenes, and I'm so impressed with my team, who's putting this together. I'm just really impressed, and the care that they're all all having with this. It's incredible.
So they can find out more about that on the website.
Yes, and you'll flash that up. I sent it in to.
Yes. Let's put the other website up for that. It already has information, and you can start to make your reservations.
Yes.
And start to, I know that some of the speakers are starting to be announced because I
Yep.
saw somebody announce yesterday. We love Kara Kaczynski. She's been a semi-regular here on the show. And one of the things that was particularly fun for us last year, she was there at the conference with her two boys that are on the autism spectrum, and her older son was doing his first speaking thing with his mom there. 16, 17 years old-ish is what his age range was. And so we were around them and we're friends with them, and there was some nervousness about how was he going to do. One of my favorite things about the conference that I hope they're going to keep is that every morning there's somebody who gets up and does kind of a talking highlight of what happened the day before. And about what's trending, what was a buzz, because you can't go to all the talks. You can't
Right.
possibly physically be. So to hear every morning what was happening, and there was one morning the day after Jacob Kaczynski's talk, the speaker got up and he said, okay, here's the thing I want to talk about. This young man who got up and spoke for the first time and spoke, sharing the stage with his mother and how amazing it had been. And I just saw yesterday that he's getting his own talk this year at the conference. So don't miss that. If you go, don't miss hearing him speak. He's an amazing young man, and how exciting, how excited he was. And I got to be there to see, and now see that he gets to have his own talk. It's a cool thing. You're not going to see that everywhere.
You're not.
So definitely a thing to go to. And it's in Milwaukee.
It's in Milwaukee.
Last year when it was in New Orleans, I'd never been to New Orleans, me. And it was great because it was a great place to be, but I was not used to the humidity, and we came off the plane at 9 o'clock at night and it was like breathing in a swimming pool.
Yes.
So Milwaukee in mid-July will be much nicer, friendlier. I'm sure that it can still be hot and humid, but not like New Orleans.
Yes, and the Brewers are in town, so you can go to a Brewers game.
Yeah, well, okay, there you go. What kind of sport is that? Is that a
baseball?
Okay, that's baseball.
Yeah.
See, this is that's not
I think they're playing the Phillies.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, I've heard of the Phillies. Okay, so you can do all that. An amazing, amazing place. Okay, so we're 3 minutes over. Anything else you want to share?
Let's go 5 minutes over.
All right, do it. What do you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I just want to say that it's great to be back here, and I always enjoy sitting with you.
Well, I love it. I was excited this morning because a lot of times with my guests, at least a part of my brain has to think about, taking care of them and making sure that they're comfortable, because this can be intimidating. I never have to worry about that with you, so I get to just relax and riff with you, and it's always enjoyable.
Yes.
So we absolutely, the door is open. You are welcome to come whenever you want, and not only be here with me, but to do your own thing, and we're going to work that out.
Yes, we will.
So there you have it. But again, want to tell people, get your tickets to AuTFest.
AuTFestASA.com, April 22nd and 23rd at the Orange AMC 30 Theater in Orange.
Okay, so there it is up on the screen. And
if you act quickly,
yes.
If you act quickly, you can buy tickets to the VIP reception.
Ooh.
And not many people are going to get into that.
And who do you get to rub elbows with at that?
Well, any of the VIPs that are going to the ceremony will be there.
So it's 2 days.
Do the math.
It's 2 days, and so they need to look at the schedule and see which films that they want to do. But is there like a grand gala opening to it? That's when the
There's
VIP
no grand gala opening.
There's the VIP reception.
But the Saturday will be a film day, so it'll be all films on Saturday.
Okay.
Sunday is all films,
okay.
and then we have a big soiree. At the VIP reception, 50 yards from the theater.
Is that the day you give out the awards?
Yes, that is the day we give out the awards.
So
do the math.
So do the math on that about who will be at the VIP reception. But those are limited, and if you want one of those, you got to get that right now.
Very limited.
All right, and then definitely, if you can, check out and make your arrangements to go to Milwaukee this summer.
Yes.
Because it's worthwhile.
You will not be sorry.
No, you won't be sorry. All right, thank you so much for being here. You have to come back
pleasure.
sooner as opposed to later.
I will.
And I want to say to everybody, thank you so much for being with us. We're back next Wednesday, starting with Ask Dr. Doreen, and great guests for you all next week, and more of our mindfulness moments and our autism in the classroom coming at you. And keep your questions coming in on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on our live feature. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.